It's late at night here at Carleton College, and I'm wading through a term's worth of footage, audio footage from senior citizens I talked to about what makes a community good for them. And a lot of the things I've found point to the idea that a good life for a senior citizen in many ways isn't all that different from a good life for anyone else. Certainly they have their own particular needs, especially relating to things like healthcare. But it really circles back to the question of what is a well-lived life? How can the communities we join and form make that more of a possibility? And I hope that in the words of the elders, you can find a little bit of yourself and ask, what is the life I want now? And what is the life I want when I am old? You're listening to KRLX 88.1 FM in Northfield, Minnesota, a service of Carleton College. I'm Katie Koza, and this is the Northfield-Elder-Project. Here's Marie Vogel-Gary, a lively older woman who I met at the Northfield Senior Center.
Just because somebody is in their 80s, they're not dead. Older people have time they want to invest. They don't want to fritter it away.
Here's Susie Nakassian from the Northfield City Council, who posed a lot of the questions that would really help guide my project.
How do we plan so that our lives can be generative, that we can be free to give what we have at the end of life, rather than live despairing of what wasn't? Because if you succeed in allowing, accommodating, generative life, it empowers the young who see at the beginning of life that life has a full and rich arc, all the way through.
As I conducted all these interviews, I found myself looking forward and wondering what my world will be like when I am old. Here's Susie Nakassian.
Every beginning of a story anticipates the end of the story, and that casts a shadow back. If you think it all ends up in despair, why would you bother?
Here are a few interesting snippets from some of the senior citizens I talked to. The ones you'll hear in this clip are Warren Balfany, Wayne Little, Joanne Roney, Ivan Peigemeyer, Jack White, and Frank Holmgren.
I'm a pilot, and we found a little airport just west of here.
Been in the feed business. I've got a feed store, and I sold products to the local farmers all around town.
I'm a trained clown.
I've been here in Minnesota for 62 years. Mm-hmm. I had an old-time band, which I played, Ivan and his Jolly Dutchman, for 40 years. Drove school bus for 40 years. During the week, I'd drive school bus. Mm-hmm. Week and nights, I would go and work on private locks. And weekends, I'd play my band.
And it used to be the towns were about 30 miles apart, because that's how far a horse could go in one day. Oxen could only go 10 miles in one day.
Chime bells are ringing, yodeloo-tee-ay. Mockingbirds are singing, yodeloo-tee-ay.
In the end, this radio podcast is really about those people, their vibrant lives. And in order to understand how the Northfield community makes such vibrant lives possible, we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about some of the big ideas of what makes a community good for senior citizens, and for everyone else. When I interviewed Patsy Dew, who helps run the Northfield Senior Center, she gave me a list of reasons why Northfield is such an appealing place for seniors to spend their time well.
One of the main reasons that people like to move here for their retirement, I think, is that it's a combination of a small town with a highly intellectual environment, the two colleges, and it's close to the Twin Cities.
Marie added her own ideas about what Northfield provides well for its retired citizens?
Sidewalks, for one. Public transportation, a good medical community, a very good senior center.
Susie Nakacian mentioned that a dense, tight form of urban development in Northfield helps seniors and young people get around.
Fast forward that to your being an 84-year-old woman living in Northfield. You'll be really grateful that you live in a place that's you can get to the store, right, without your kids having to worry about you.
As a college student who has moved from dorm to dorm, I'm well aware of the importance of having good housing options. Here's Marie.
As we get older, more and more of the people whom we've known the longest are no longer living by themselves, and they're in one of the accommodations. And it's comforting to know that they're well taken care of, because your name is probably on the list too, for when you can no longer live by yourself.
Here's Linda Code Pedersen, who works with activities at the Northfield Retirement Community.
I believe the full spectrum, having a nursing home, nursing care, assisted living, independent care. We here also have what we call catered living and a memory care, so that people can age in place. Couples can have spouses in one area or another, and it works really well.
Linda also remarked on some interesting trends she's observed regarding senior housing.
Well, I believe people are waiting longer to come to a facility such as ours, or able to stay in their homes longer with services available in their homes.
I've seen this trend play out in my own family as well. For example, until very recently, my 88-year-old grandmother lived in the same house that she'd been in since the 1950s with the help of home health care. Also, my parents, who are in the baby boom generation, planned the house that they built so that they can age in place. Here's Susie Nakacian talking about options for medical care in
A
Northfield.
resident of Northfield has immediate access to an excellent hospital here, and through the network system of the hospital, access to whatever care that you'd need beyond that. We also have, beyond our local hospital, access to 52 miles away to the world's best medical center, the Mayo Clinic.
Going into this project, there were some things I expected people to talk about in the context of a good senior community, like housing and transportation. But something that slipped my mind was religion. You see, I found, after talking to these people, that many of them thought that it was important to have a community that didn't just look out for your physical needs, but for your spiritual needs as well. Here's Marie.
The church community here is very strong, and that's also very important for many older citizens. Not for everybody, but for many.
Linda talked about the importance of faith for many residents and staff members at the Northfield Retirement Community.
The population that we have right now, faith has been important in their lives, and it's important to them to be able to continue that and know that that's kind of the background of where staff is.
I heard from a lot of different seniors that people in Northfield don't just care for your medical or spiritual needs, they just care for you as whole people. Not everybody agreed with this, but Wayne and Elvie Little, who I met after a bingo party at the Northfield Retirement Community, did. Here are Wayne and Elvie Little on the importance of caring and family.
We got so many friendly people.
They're still concerned about us, and they do what they can to take care of our needs, whether we say anything or not.
Here's Shirley Como.
Caring seems to have spread through the whole community, the whole town.
Whether or not Shirley is right, I suppose is a matter of debate. But I did hear a few good stories about strangers helping out the elderly in Northfield. Here's Shirley.
And we go to Kano Foods, and I'm getting to be so well known there that the manager greets me. And last Thursday I had a private shopper, personal shopper. I couldn't find some of the things I wanted, and so one of the men who was stocking shelves put down his things and took my grocery list in his hands, and he went through the whole list. We got it all. I would not have had that anyplace else, I don't think, than right here and in this community.
Here's Jack Hansen.
First got here, first week or so, I was down at Quick Trip getting milk and stuff. So I'm walking with a cane and trying to carry it to the car, and the guy got out of his car, a young fellow, and ran around behind me and came up and says, "I'll take those," and then he took me to my car and put it in the car, and I thanked him. I have had probably a half a dozen or more when I've been out of the hospital of recovery, where people have assisted me. And I didn't get that up in Birdsville, where I lived for 20-some years.
Susie agreed that people in Northfield tend to help out strangers.
There are other communities in which you'll find people sort of take care of their own, but they don't look out for each other. And that's not what I find in Northfield. There's a real peripheral connectiveness here. People help people out who they don't even know.
I was heartened to hear these stories, because only helping out people you know will only get you so far in making a good community. I also got a chance to talk to Marie, a retired English teacher, about the benefits of settling down in a caring place like Northfield and staying there for a long time. Here's Marie.
People who were kids when I taught them are now grown-ups, whom when I need something done with the house, I call them because they know how to fix things. That's something wonderful about being in a place for a long time.
Several other seniors shared anecdotes about the importance and role of education in their lives. Guess it makes sense that they settled down in a town with 2 colleges. Here's Ivan Pygmeyer.
And I was told by an old guy when I worked out in Selby, South Dakota as a mechanic. He says, "Ivan, I've been doing this work for years." He says, "Now when I tell you something, you can let it in this year. And if you don't know it, stop it. But if you know it, let it out this year." And I never forgot that. I learned more by listening than I do by talking.
Ivan's ideas on education reminded me of the old saying, "You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason." Here's Warren Balfany on Northfield as a college town.
I have always liked college towns. I've been through quite a few of them in the United States in my business, whatever, and I've always found college towns have a kind of a certain feel. First of all, you've got the resources of these 2 wonderful colleges, and you just can't beat that. And there seems to be a pervading culture that comes into the area from the colleges.
Other seniors echoed Warren's idea that Northfield is a good place for the elderly because it has so many cultural opportunities, many of which are brought in by the 2 colleges. And clearly, intellectual and cultural opportunities don't hurt the young either. For example, I like to boast to my friends back home that at Carleton, I can hear the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra 2 blocks away from my dorm for free. But here's what Marie has to say about cultural opportunities in Northfield.
People keep saying how small Northfield is. I don't believe it. No. It's big. Because look what it affords us.
Here are some thoughts from Mary White and Joanne Roney.
We were music majors at the University of Minnesota, and so I've enjoyed being able to go to all the concerts. And
I thought I died and went to heaven the first time I heard that St. Olaf choir.
Northfield's elder community is also special because it has something called the Elder Collegium, where retired faculty and other experts in the community give classes to senior citizens on a wide variety of topics. Judy Say Willis, who is an artist herself, talked about the importance of art and creativity in people's lives, and how seniors who have more time to spend often choose to spend it on creative pursuits. Here's Judy.
When we're your age and getting older, you're busy, you've got this structure, and when do you have time to do, some of the creative things? I'm of the philosophy that creativity is in everybody's lives. It takes a great deal of creativity to fight a war. It takes a great deal of creativity to be Amy Klobuchar. It takes a great deal of creativity to run a business. So I think when you no longer have some of those same working responsibilities, you can shift your time, if you so choose, and start filling it in with some of the things you thought you would like to do that you never had the opportunity to do.
Patsy Dew talked with me excitedly about the art gallery at the Northfield Senior Center, entirely filled with art made by seniors. Lots of people I talked to mentioned the Northfield Senior Center as being a huge asset to the city. Here's Mary White.
And we were so happy when they built the senior center over there with a pool, because we'd been driving to Faribault to get to warm water. And we tried the high school pool for it. That's cold. We didn't like that.
Patsy Dew, Assistant Senior Center Director, talked to me about what she thinks the center is doing well.
I think what we do really well is that we've involved the people who come here.
Marie, who goes to the senior center, echoed some of what Patsy said.
There's so much here to keep mind and body busy in a very productive way.
I got a chance to tour the senior center and see everything they have to offer, from the warm water pools to dance and art and computer classes, and I thought, I'd like to go there. I'm just too young. One of the things that the Northfield Senior Center, and other seniors in Northfield and beyond, have struggled with is the word senior itself. I mean, why call yourself elderly if you don't feel all that old? Here's Marie.
I think the image among the young is, I don't know how old she is, but she's very old. And I realize when one is 20, 45 looks very old. When one is on the sunny side of 80, 80 doesn't look as old as it did when I was 16 and I thought you would die at 20.
Here's Patsy.
There are so many bad attitudes toward people being old. And just the word senior, a lot of people would like us to take that out of the name of the organization, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
And yet, that's what we're for. We are for, and people just don't want to admit that they're getting older, Yeah. And this place is all about healthy aging, but it's aging,
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's about.
Here's Jerry.
Our concern right now is that there's a group of people, 50 to 60 probably, many of whom are still working, most are still working, who are active, and one of the comments they make often to us is they don't think of themselves as seniors, and they don't want to think of themselves as seniors, and so we ought to change our name, for instance.
I've heard that, yes.
And the difficulty for me with that is that our problem or their problem? Is that something that if we change in order to acknowledge this group of people who don't want to be called seniors, are we denying a part of aging that says seniors are seniors because they are seniors? It's not, maybe there's another word for it, but it's still, if you're going to have as part of your identity that you are for seniors, do you help people accept their age by denying that they're seniors? Just by changing the name, does that help them, or does it help you, or does it make it more difficult for you to be who you are?
Here's Patsy again.
We've spent all this time talking about what are we going to do with the word senior? Should we take it out? What would we call ourselves if we weren't that? And you were using the word elderly, and I thought, that's worse.
Throughout the interviews, I struggled to find the right word to talk about the older population. I mean, senior, elderly, these all kind of have bad connotations. In the end, my favorite noun was elder, for the respect that it carries. Of course, Northfield isn't a utopia, and there are some things that it could be doing better for its senior citizens. For example, several of the people I talked to weren't entirely convinced that Northfield is serving its lower income seniors as well as it's serving its upper income seniors. Here's Susie.
For the upper income retirees that are income secure, we're doing very well. We need to do a little bit more analysis for moderate income seniors or income challenged seniors who may have been hit with the growing diversity of income in our country.
I got a chance to talk to Patsy and to Jerry about the extent to which the Northfield Senior Center is addressing the needs of seniors from all income brackets. The two tended to disagree, but they did agree that a good amount of diversity is helpful for a senior population. Here's Patsy, and then Jerry.
But one of the things I have just loved about being here is that it serves all levels. And it's one place in Northfield where you see poor people. You see people who are highly educated, and you see people who have made it totally on their own.
Older citizens are diverse among themselves, and if a place is accepting of diversity and doesn't insist on a kind of uniformity, it gives people to be a chance to be themselves, whatever they are and wherever they are. And Northfield is a diverse community, but the senior center probably doesn't reflect all of that diversity in the way it could. It is a pretty homogeneous group in lots of ways.
Looking back, I realized that the sample of senior citizens I interviewed was probably pretty homogeneous in a lot of respects as well. I didn't get a chance to ask them about their socioeconomic backgrounds or their ethnic background or a variety of other factors. So I think it would be a good idea for somebody else to come in someday and do a sociological study of diversity among the elderly in Northfield, to investigate the extent to which the city and the community are addressing the needs of all seniors. Another critique I heard had to do with how Northfield shovels, or fails to shovel, the sidewalks. Here's Joanne Roney.
If they possibly could, they should try to get rid of the snow on the curb area, because I had to climb over to get to a meeting one time and almost fell.
Ivan agreed and sounded off about shoveling himself.
They don't plow the sidewalks. Mm-hmm. They off and on ramps. They have behind the Eagles Club in Baltimore there, they had a bank this high, right over the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. Not even you could walk over it. How about the next guy was a wheelchair or a scooter? How about the person with the cane?
Yeah.
Can he step over it without falling?
And falls, as just about anyone who works with seniors knows, can really change the course of someone's life. There's really something to be said for intergenerational friendships. I spend a lot of time with 18 to 22-year-olds, and while they're wonderful, a lot of the elderly citizens I talked to had a broad range of experiences and stories that I couldn't get from my friends at Carleton. And one of my favorite moments in all of the interviews was when Leone told me this story.
Anybody ever seen a UFO?
No.
I have.
You have?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
I'm not trying to be smart.
I'm curious. Is it okay if I record this?
I saw one years ago. I remember somebody with me, and we both saw it, so I know it was my imagination. I thought at first it was the outside of a saucer, but it was cigar-shaped, and it glowed with yellows and blues, light colors, pretty colors. And out of that, it was standing perfectly still. And out of it came like an umbilical cord, and that was glowing too, and on the end of it was a replica of a big one. And it stood there long enough, both of them, for me I can see it to this day, and just like this, it was gone, and it was just like somebody pulled a curtain over it. And completely silent. And I'll never forget it. It was absolutely, I couldn't believe it, what I was seeing.
One of my best intergenerational friendships is with my own grandmother. So of course, I asked her about this project. I said, "Grandma, tell me, what do you think makes a community good for its elderly citizens?" And she said, "Well, Katie, I wouldn't know. I'm not that elderly. I'm only 88. I'm Katie Koza. Thanks for listening to the Northfield Elder Project. I couldn't have done it without all of the wonderful senior citizens and other Northfield residents that I interviewed. I also couldn't have done it without the help and support of my journalism professor, Doug McGill, or my friend, Steph Lee. Music for this project was found through Mixcraft 6 and comes from DJ Puzzle and sfxsource.com. Thanks again for tuning in to KRLX.